So welcome to another Patreon Q&A. Thank you again, Patreons, so much for your support and for your questions as well. I want to start, as always, with the Discord challenge. Every month we have a challenge with giveaways on the Discord, Patreon Discord channel. So if you're a Patreon, come join us on Discord. Amazing community and giveaways, monthly giveaways and challenges. And if you're not a Patreon, consider joining us on Patreon. Lots of extra content, exclusive videos, patching techniques and ideas, document, monthly presets, instruments, all sorts of different things. So come join us on Patreon. So this month we had Klaus Schulze. This is the first question. Klaus Schulze challenge, right? Composing, creating something in this direction. We have 7 submissions. As always, I will select one at random. I will let the module select one for us. So we have 7 submissions. Here I have 7 steps on the sequencer. It's running also randomly. And I have a burst generator that will just generate a burst of triggers. And this will select this month's winner. So let's have a look. Puff. Number 7 is shape noise. Congrats, you won. I will contact you as soon as I finish recording this video. So again, if you are a Patreon and you are not on Discord, come join us on Discord. If you are not a Patreon, come join us on Patreon. It's quite fun. And let's start with the first question. I saw it's already from Chris. Hi, Chris. What are your top creative modules for the moment? Free and paid, voice, sequencers, filters. Thank you, Chris. Well, I'm not so sure. The thing is, I'm not so fond of those type of questions of top, best, and stuff, similar stuff, because there is really nothing like this. I'm always changing, especially in the modular environment, right? We always change stuff. And we always do different things. There is no best, there is no top, I guess. There are so many amazing tools and instruments and modules and stuff like this. So I'm not so sure what to say, but I will say that this collection here, some of it is free, some of it is paid granular modules, delays, sequencers, voices, this path set collection. I think it's a fresh of fresh air. Exactly. Anyway, it's exciting. It's new, not just new released, but new. It looks different. It feels different. For example, glass pane. I did a video about this not long ago. The sequencer that you have to patch by yourselves. I know something like this was available also in VCV1, but this is sort of taking it in a different direction. Really taking advantage, this whole collection really taking advantage of working inside software, right? It's not trying to emulate anything in hardware. It's taking advantage of the software capabilities working inside VCV. So again, really interesting modules. Again, it's not the best. They are not my top modules that I use, but there's a lot to explore here, and I think they are really interesting. And there are so many other modules that I use on a regular basis, and I find creative. Something that I'm using a lot lately is Zoom A from Bido, the sequencer. Another thing that I'm exploring a lot, that's my goal is to explore Tap Dancer a lot from Flag, which is a delay. It's a multi-tap delay with so many interesting features like ducking, built-in filters, drive, built-in modulation, stuff like this. So again, I'm not so sure if those are my top modules or the best modules or something like this, but it's just things that I want to experiment more with. And this whole path set collection or collections, I find really interesting. There are also new stuff from Vult. There are so many things. It's hard to mention everything. All right, Chris, thank you. Nick, Hey Omri, how would you approach using VCVREC to emulate Hainbach's musical style, particularly his work with test equipment? Most VCV modules are designed to offer wide musical versatility, but test equipment is inherently quite limiting, so it's tough to strike the right balance. That's true. So I have something ready, by the way, a selection. Let me load this. Hopefully everything will load correctly right here. So the thing is with test equipment and hardware in general, I think, especially when it's so limiting, it's hands-on, right? You see Hainbach also how he plays the instruments. Everything you have to touch, you have to go, you have to move, you have to stand up, you have to sit down. It's a totally different experience than working in software with the mouse, for example, or something like this. And again, also the sound is totally different in hardware, especially with this whole test equipment. I don't know, is it in mode now? I don't know how to call it, but never mind, still interesting stuff. Some things you can do in VCVREC to emulate some stuff. It will have to come from you, that you will have to limit yourself because there are no dedicated modules. Maybe there should be hint for someone to make, I don't know, hint, I just said hint, but for someone to make test equipment modules in VCVREC. But then again, the whole fun, I guess, the whole experience is actually going and touching them and using them with your hands. So, but still a few things you can try. For example, what I have here is 3 sine wave generators, sine wave oscillators, basically. Right now, yes, they have volt per octave input, they have FM, phase, sync, and all sorts of things, but it's up to you not to use it if you don't want to, or yes, to use it. What I did here is I used a few of those knobs modules from RCM just because they have big controls. So it's easier to control the pitch, right? So you can change the pitch of each of them if I send this to the mixer. Also, the mixer is quite limiting in this case. Right, I'm using the Rex mix, which is inspired by the Hex mix from Befaco. It has 6 mono channels, send effects, which is great, panning and volume modulation, and also built-in EQ, which is great for sculpting the sound. But again, you will have to play with it. It's all about live playing. So if I send this to the mixer, I have a reverb, the plateau as a send effect, and I have also a compressor at the end to add more liveness to the sound. So it's not static, but the sounds react to one another sometimes, right, with the compressor, just to add a bit more liveliness to everything, a bit more movement. So if I send, for example, a sine generator, right? Maybe I will turn the volume here a bit up. Right, basically, I have a sine that I can tune by myself, and that's more or less it. Right, but I can also create chords. So you can also create chords, stuff like this. You can create all sorts of things, drones, and all sorts of different effects. And you can have as many as you want, of course, in hardware. You cannot have as many as you want, but in this case you can. Also filters, bandpass filters, right? It's also a big part of the sound. So you can use bandpass filters. Also them you can use as a voice because they will self-oscillate. Right, but you can also ping them. And again, you can choose any other filter you want. I chose tangents because I just love this filter. Right, so I have also 3. Soon enough, we will try and create also something. Another interesting thing are pulse generators, right? When you think about this, it's basically sequencers that will output pulses. But there is something there that sounds like the amplitude sounds like there is something organic going on there with the pulses. It's not just pulses, they move a bit in amplitude, they move a bit in intensity. Right, so what I have here, I have a pulse generator, which will basically generate pulses or a pulse wave with a certain frequency. Right, but I'm sending it to a VCA first, and I'm letting a sequencer that is running with the same pulses basically control the amplitude of the, right, control the amplitude of this pulse. So if I try to ping a filter, for example, right? And I just randomize the sequencer. Right, already we get something interesting. Right? And we have another thing you can do is use actually an actual sequencer, right, to create the pulses, to create those rhythms. I forgot how this device is called, but basically it will generate a rhythm that you can then drive also at audio rates and create all sorts of different sounds, right? So here there is micrograph, which is a trigger sequencer. And I'm running it with an external clock so I can get it also at audio rates. Right, so if, for example, I use one trigger here to ping another filter, right, and let's say that the first sequence here I can also get into audio rates. Right, if I change this from slow, if I turn this off, right, and add some reverb. Reverb is a must, right? I change the sequence a bit. Right, or I can do the opposite, or I can have the second one at audio rates. Right? Of course, this will be available as a selection that you can load in your own patches. Another thing is a noise generator, right? We have noise plethora with all sorts of different noises. Right, let's add lots of reverb. And have a look at the, right, the compressor here. Right, and now we can record. There is also a sampler, right? Hainbach is working with tape loops and all sorts of different things. There is a really interesting demonstration he's doing at Superbooth there. It's also on YouTube. Really interesting stuff. Right, so we can record, for example, like a sine wave. Right, let's record this. change the pitch. Right? Record another one. Record another one. This has also sound on sound. Right, and now let's send this first, for example, through another bandpass. Right, and create a sort of a rhythm. Play this, let's say in reverse, take it an octave down, or an octave up, create splices, you can add all sorts of different things to this. You can add also more traditional stuff like more modulation and whatnot. Create chords and all sorts of different things that you can create, all sorts of rhythms and whatnot. Listen to this without the compressor. Static and with. It's like it's breathing a bit, right? So anyway, this is more or less it. You have sine generators, you have bandpass filters, you have pulse generators. You have noise, you have sampling or tape looping or stuff like this. You have a nice mixer with with lots of characters, some pedals, right? Some effects like reverb. You can add other stuff to this. And also the compressor is there just to add some movement. Of course, there is much more you can add to this. Maybe it's an idea to explore and create a whole fixed track inspired by Hainbach and text equipment. But again, I think the fun part is actually touching and working intuitively with the instruments instead of with the mouse. But still, it's fun. You can create interesting textures, interesting rhythms, interesting loops, and then build on it, right? So I hope this was an answer to your question. I hope this was helpful. Nick, thank you. The next question, Marvin. Hi, Marvin. I'm curious, what music did you do before falling in the eurorack rabbit hole? Also, do you think tuition in instrument playing and music theory makes a big difference? All right. So what music did I do before falling in the eurorack rabbit hole? Well, for a long time, I composed. I didn't compose a lot, but for a long time, this was my passion, composing for traditional instruments, piano, a bit of guitar, not really a lot, flute, stuff like this. I have a whole album actually on Bandcamp. That's the only album that is not modular, and I'm not removing it anytime soon because I'm really proud of it. Basically 6 piano pieces that I wrote and performed and recorded. So I made more traditional acoustic stuff, I guess. But then I fell in love with eurorack and everything just came together. Now I can use everything what I love with one instrument. And if I think tuition in instrument playing and music theory makes a big difference. I'm not so sure if it will make a big difference, but I guess every little thing that you can use, I mean, if this is your passion and this is your craft, right? Even if you're not doing it for a living, Right, but if this is something you're really passionate about, then I guess the more you experiment, the more you learn about other things as well. Get inspiration from other worlds, get inspiration from other environments, like playing piano, for example, or like playing, I don't know, a guitar or something, a classical guitar, a nylon string guitar. For example, I think that it can just enrich you. I think that it cannot do harm. And I think that it's another tool for you to use in your toolbox, right? Something that you can use in your advent. I don't know. Listen, if the whole purpose, why we do what we do, sometimes we have stuff in our head and we want to get it out. We want to express ourselves. Some people do it with words. Some people do it with sculpturing. Sculpturing, is this a word? With sculpture. Some people do it with sound and music. So if learning an instrument can help you express yourself, then why not? I think it can only help. But I don't think it's a must. Not at all. Sometimes, maybe keeping this innocence, I guess, can be also a good thing. Not to know anything and just approach an instrument without knowing anything can also have magic in it, right? But I think that, if this is your passion, then I think go for it. You can get really a lot from it, inspiration, ideas. It can just be interesting, and that's good enough, right? I'm not so sure it will make a big difference, but I am sure that it will add another aspect, another dimension to how you compose and how you make music or how you make sound. Totally, it can help. So I guess yes. My answer is yes. All right, Marvin, thank you. CP Geisen or Jason, hi. Besides the VCV core, is there one brand that provides the most complete module list? Meaning, if I were to build a patch limited to just one brand, which would you recommend? So there are many. Again, I'm not so this best and stuff like this top. I'm not so sure what to say about stuff like this, but there are many modules that are amazing. There is, not modules, collections. There is one collection, of course, which is the one and only Mr. Nischi that has, I think, everything. Sampling, modulation, sequencing, voices, effects, all sorts of different modules that you might want. Some you might not want, but still they are there. There's a tuner. There are controller modules. There is everything in the Nischi collection. There's delay, reverb, a few types of reverbs even, compressor, all sorts of different tools for generative patching, mixers. There's everything. The vector mixer, which I really like for panning, modulation, and stuff like this. Of course, all of the different samplers. There is a Poly 7Cs, which is a wavetable, polyphonic wavetable oscillator. There is also somewhere an harmonic oscillator, ambience, reverb, other phaser. There is everything, even a recorder. You can have a whole patch just with a Nischi, envelopes, LFOs, complex modulation, randomness. There is everything, basically everything here. This one, phaser, which is a graphic harmonic oscillator. There is basically everything and anything. Chorus I see here. Everything and anything you might want. 16 attack, sustain, release envelopes. What's better than this? With all the functions you want, with end of attack, end of release, it can loop everything, right? Nischi, the echo, right? The Ni echo, NY echo. There is everything in the Nischi collection. Seriously, an amazing collection. I'm not so sure how he's doing all of this. But I guess that, he's doing it. There is even the voice synthesizer here. So yes, the Nischi one, you can have only this. You don't need anything else. And I have to tell you, there are some modules here. I say some because I didn't explore all, of course. There are many modules here, but there are some modules here that they are just amazing, and they are just inspiring, even though the manuals are not there. Some of them are quite intuitive. Some of them are not, and you have to learn them, but still amazing collection. Simplicitors, Quang, the programmer, all of the different samplers, everything is just beautiful. All sorts of different Bookline inspired, Surge inspired. So anyway, I'm talking. Yes, Nischi, for sure. Nischi. And again, there are other collections, but Nischi has everything. All right, thank you. Thank you for the question. Another one, Stefan. Hi, Ori. Hi. How do you decide which voices are best for the patch you are creating? I think this is the magic question. How do you know if anything is right when you do it? I think the answer is in the question. It says, how do you decide? And I guess that's the beauty, for me at least, in modular. If it's hardware, if it's vSphere, it's a bit more deciding. But let's say in general, I look at it more as a conversation. I listen, right? In conversation, it's important to listen. And I guess that I have a sort of a conversation with the instrument. I don't decide so many things. I let the instrument lead me, I guess, in a way. Let me just take a schluckchen. I know it sounds stupid. When I say it out loud, it sounds weird. I let the instrument lead me and I listen and stuff like this. But this is really what's happening. I listen and I react to what I hear, and I let the instrument react also to what I do. I'm not in control. The instrument, the modular is not in control. Never mind VCV or hardware. I just listen to things and I hope for the best. Many times it doesn't work. Many times the choices that are being made, if it's by me or if it's by the modular, are not the best. Again, best, I'm not so sure there is best. Again, I'm going back to this. There is no perfect, there is no best. There is always other stuff you can do and explore. I try not to think a lot, and I try just to do stuff without thinking, just intuitively going for stuff without looking back, so to speak. And I just don't know. That's the thing, I don't know. When I try not to decide things, I'm just going with the flow, I guess. What can help is listening, I guess, to a lot of music. Not that I do it recently, but I did it in past years. Now life is different. Right, listening to a lot of music, experimenting with a lot of ideas and techniques. I know I say it a lot, but dedicate time for experimentation and practicing, basically, because the more you practice, the less you have to think about stuff, the more intuitive things become, and then you don't have to decide. Things just happen, and they will come from the inside, right? And it will be you, or the combination of you and the instrument. Yeah, so it's a tough question. It's the magic question. I'm not so sure how to answer this because I don't know it myself. And again, maybe best is not the best, the best option, because there is no best, there is no perfect. Just try not to think too much, I guess. Let go. Oh, letting go. This is something important. Letting go is an important thing in, I think, music in general, and also with modular and stuff like this, synthesizers. Let go and enjoy the trip, I guess. All right, Stefan, thank you. Marcus, hi Omri, hi. I would like to use arpeggio in my VCV 2 Pro and would appreciate a tutorial, for example, how to use the Bog Audio ARP. Maybe also cool ways to use arpeggio with drum sounds, for example. All right, so I have here again something ready. It will be available on Patreon if you are interested. ARP. I have a few examples, as you can see. Let me just connect quickly the mixer here. All right. So first of all, let's start with how to use the ARP module from Bog Audio. You said VCV 2 Pro, so I guess you are using it in a DAW. Maybe not, but I will use a sequencer. I have the note sequencer from JW, which is also polyphonic. I have it set to 5 notes of polyphony, so it will basically output chords of 5 notes. But you can use the information from the DAW, of course, it will work the same. Right, so I have here a clock that I'm going, this one here divided by 8, that I'm going to trigger the sequencer, right? So every division of 8, it will advance to a different chord. And this chord, the pitch, I'm going to send to the pitch of the ARP module. And the gate will go to the gate input. Pay attention, they are both polyphonic, of course, right? From there, the volt per octave will go to my voice. In this case, I have Opulus going through some reverb. Right, and now we need something to tell the ARP how quickly to arpeggiate the chords, right? It will go note by note and will play the chords. So here I have a clock multiplied by 4, and this I'm going to send to the clock input. And we have a chord, an arpeggio. Now another thing to pay attention to is this hold button here. I'm going to disable it and you will see nothing will happen until the gate will play. So basically what happens here, the arpeggiator is waiting for a gate to open in order to arpeggiate the chords, which means that this was mostly meant to use with the MIDI keyboard. When you hit a chord on the MIDI keyboard, the gate will open. As long as you hold the chord, the arpeggiator will arpeggiate this chord. But if you turn on the hold function here, it will act as if the gate will always be high. Right, and in the right-click menu, you have here a few options. Use new notes on arpeggio restart. Basically, when you restart the arpeggio, and you can change also the gate length. But if I turn here, hold, right, it will basically act as if the gate is always high. And it will arpeggiate the notes, the chords. Right, you can change the gate length again, which doesn't matter so much in this case. And you can change the mode, so there is up, there is down, there is pendulum. There is also sort of pendulum, but it will repeat the first and last notes. Right, there is inside out, random, and shuffle. Right. Shuffle is also interesting because it will play randomly the notes, but in a repetitive way until it will advance one step. Experiment with it, it's quite interesting. Right, so this is basically how the ARP module from Borg Audio works. Now, let's say that you want to use the arpeggiator. I've seen this done a lot in Ableton and stuff like this. You want to use the arpeggiator. I have to zoom out quite a lot here. You want to use the arpeggiator to trigger drums, right? So basically, you want each note to trigger a different drum voice. So for this, you need to convert somehow the notes into gates. Now, if you use a DAW, so there is this MIDI module, which is MIDI gates, right? You will see here that it's set to your DAW, right? And then you have each note will output a gate. But if you don't use a DAW, you want to do this in VCVRX. So there is a module like the cage, again, NISCHI. You don't have to do anything. You just have to set here by CV, right? And then it will select, you can see between the different stages here with each note. And you have here outputs, gate outputs or trigger outputs that you can use. So again, I'm using the ARP module in pendulum in this case. Let's just reset everything. Right, in pendulum in this case, and I have 4 chords that are arpeggiated, but I'm not using this for pitch, I'm using this for triggers. Right, so I have here tremor 2, let me unmute this. Right, with a kick drum and this sort of a hi-hat. And I have tremor as a sort of a snare. And kick call as a bass. I have here a mixer, I'm not so sure why, but it's there. Right, and again, according to the arpeggio, according to the notes of the chord, it will play the drums differently. Right, so you can also experiment with this and create patterns and stuff like this with an arpeggio, which is also quite fun and quite interesting. Right, again, also this selection will be available on Patreon if you want to download it and use it. There are other ARP modules that you can use that are also quite interesting. Right, so for example, I have here chord key, which will generate, can I reset here? No, that will generate chords. Basically, I have just one chord, but I have a different ARP module. I'm not using the one from Bogue Audio, I'm using the one from Hampton Harmonics, which is quite interesting. Because it has also CV inputs for all sorts of different things, like the direction and the octave. Right, so if we listen to this, right? This is just one chord. Right, and what I'm doing, I'm using here two ADDR sequencers to sequence the direction and the octave. Right, so you get from one chord, you get really interesting movement. Another thing you can do is add probability to the gates, right? So here I have the gates are coming through chances, so it will have, right? So it will play less notes, it will give you more space, basically. Right, and to this you can add a delay. Right, so again, you are arpeggiating a chord, but you have more space with probability. Right, and again, there are other modules, there are other arpeggiator modules that you can experiment with. There is the PolyArp from ML. There is Telia, I guess, from Shebang, which has also a few interesting polyrhythmic arpeggiator. And there is the super arpeggiator from Count Modular, this one here, also with many interesting features. I have a video where I'm using this arpeggiator to create all sorts of different generative results. I will put a link in the description for the video. And really interesting arpeggio. So again, you can use different arpeggiators if you don't want to use the one from Bogue Audio. But this is it. Again, will be available on Patreon if you want to download it. I hope this was helpful. Let me just remove this. All right, cool. So now, Marcus, thank you. The next question, Roy da Silva. Hi, Roy or Roy. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your support. I wonder if there is a way to emulate the Mannequin's sister module in VCV. So I have again something ready. Three sisters. It's here up. So the selection that I will put on Patreon will be just those modules, because I have here a sort of a sequence just to demonstrate this. So I built something that is inspired by the Three Sisters. It's not full because there are a few interesting features on this module that I need more time to emulate. But the main idea is there. You have 3 bandpass filters, right? You can send the audio just to a few of them. You can send the audio from a few of them or all of them together. You can move the three filters together, or you can spread the low and the high and then move them, right? So all of this I have here. And let me show you this. I have here a sequence just with key call, right? And I can choose here, we have a switch. I can choose to send it to the low, to the center, or to the high. Let's send to all of them, right? And I can choose here, there is an output switch. Again, I can choose to have just the low, or just, let me send this also to the mixer. And maybe add already some reverb, I don't know, just for fun, right? So just the low. Right, or just the center, or just the high. or all three of them. Right, and here I have also an analyzer just so we can see what's going on. So now, for example, I can say I can move all of the bandpasses together. I have here knobs, you see it says here frequency, this will move all of them together. Right, or I can spread the low and the high, so they will go in different direction, in opposite directions. And this I can do with the span control, right? And move them again together. Right, if I add resonance, which is the next one, which is quality, right, which will add resonance to all three of them. Right, now it will be easier to hear the separation between the low and the high. You can see it also here. Without and with. Right, and then of course you can add also modulation. So here you have the FM input. Right, so if you send, for example, an LFO, you can add modulation. This will go to all three filters, right? Oh, this is wet. Right, so you can play like this, add FM, remove FM. Right, so this is the main idea. Again, you can choose which filters you want to listen to. This is the main idea, basically. It's not the whole module, of course. Because again, there are a few interesting, more complex features there. There is the formant and there is the, I forgot now how it's called, the other mode. But this is the main idea. You have three bandpass filters that you can spread and you can change. Really interesting. You can process all sorts of different sounds with this. Again, it will be available on Patreon if you want to download this. Yes, so I hope this will give you a nice place to start. Okay, thank you. The next one, Troy. Hi, Troy. I really like this sound at the 39-second mark. If I will put a link to what he sent me what Troy sent me in the description, so you can all listen to it. And I was wondering if you have a suggested way of replicating it. So I tried to replicate it. It sounds awful. It sounds bad. It doesn't sound at all like what you sent me, but I guess he's using some sort of a dedicated synthesizer and is playing a lot with his hands. I think there's something really organic there. But I tried, and maybe again it will be a nice start. Of course, Simpliciter unfortunately didn't load the sample, so I will have to load it manually and change it again. Let's see where this is. It's here. So now I have to just make sure that this starts from the beginning here. Okay, we will listen to this in a second. Okay, so what I did, I used Vesec. It sounds like the sound is using is very complex. Lots of layers also. So I used Vesec, which is quite complex. Going through a filter, I'm mixing in also kick all from Befaco for another layer. There are many VCAs here. All of this is going, I will show you in a second how it works. All of this is going to Debriatus for even more complexity, right? There is an envelope with some random modulation from Caudal. And then I'm sending a copy of this voice to a high-pass filter. And from the high-pass filter to a delay and reverb, because there is also, when he opens the sound there, it sounds like a filter. There is something going on there with delay and reverb. Now, how you control all of this, let me just send this to the mixer. Let's go with a different channel here. Right, so how you bring in this sound, basically play this sound, is with this knob here. It will open the filter, it will open the VCA, it will open the VCA that will go to the delay and reverb. It will open the envelopes VCA, it will open the fold and saturation and distortion. Right, so basically it will start the sound. Right, it will open the shape of key call also to bring in this sound. Now, what I did for the sequence, again, I think either replayed it live or replayed a bit and looped it because it sounds very organic. I didn't want to try and do this with a sequencer, so I just recorded into Simpliciter. You can record CV and sequences and stuff into Simpliciter. So this is what I did. If you load, as you've seen what I did now, if you load this selection, you will have to load the sequence by yourself, I guess. So let's listen to this and see how it works, if I made a sample here correctly. Right. Again, it sounds nothing like what you sent me, but it's still an interesting sound that you can use, and I guess it's a bit in the same direction. Let's see how it works with the kick, because if it's synced, or I have to change the... See how all of the VCAs, right, open. Here there is a VCA for the cutoff, right? I'm sending the envelope through this VCA. There is another VCA here that is coming from another envelope, right? Right, so this is basically the sound. Again, it's nothing like the original, but still I learned a few things with all of the VCA and stuff like this, and also with this nice sequence, organic sequence. I'm pretty sure he played it live and looped it or something, because it's very organic, or he spent a lot of time programming a sequence. Can also be complex waveform and a few layers here and there. Again, it's not exactly this, it's not even close, I guess, but it's somewhere in the direction, and you can develop it. It will be available to download on Patreon, so you can develop it, download it, develop it. Just remember to load the sample, just like I did before, because it will not load it, apparently. Yeah, that was it. Thank you again, Troy. And I think we have here the last question from Oscar. Hi, Oscar. I was wondering if you have any favorite tools, instruments, etc. for making ambient music besides VCV and eurorack. I'm thinking about adding something new to my setup and currently considering things like groove boxes, tape machines, loopers, and samplers. The only thing I can think of that I have other than eurorack or VCV is the microcosm pedal that I have. Which is also a great looper. Some people forget it. I also forget sometimes that it's a looper. It's not just a processor, but it's also a looper. I don't really have anything. I have like a tape recorder that I use sometimes. Again, this it's not the best and it's not my favorite. It's just tools that I use outside of modular. So I have this tape, really simple, like plasticky tape recorder that I don't use a lot because it's really noisy, but I do use it sometimes. But other than this, I don't really have anything besides eurorack. I have amazing modules in eurorack. I don't really need. I have the looper from Instruo. I have Arbor from Instruo Granular. I have Morphagene. I have Microcell. I have the sample drum, which is also great for ambient and all sorts of different chopping sounds and stuff like this. What I can recommend, which I don't have, but I'm sure you will enjoy it, is the Digitect from Electron. It's a groove box. you can record into it. It's a looper, it's a sampler for sure. I mean, that's what it is. It's a sampler. And I saw many people use it for ambient. Someone like Arbeni, for example, is doing amazing things. Also sounds also granular and stuff like this. So I can recommend the Digitech. I mean, go explore it, not explore, but to make some research. Maybe you will find that you will like it because I'm always on the fence getting it or not always. I don't know why. I'm not so sure how I will combine it in my setup. But I think you will enjoy it. If you are looking for samplers or sampling and groove machine and stuff like this, the sequencer is amazing. This is for sure. This I can tell you. This I saw also from Zoom A in VCVREC. It has more or less the same sequencing ideas. The sequencer itself is amazing, and you can also use it for ambient. So many people are doing amazing things with the Digitech for ambient stuff. Yes, so this might be something you will like. And that was the last question, I guess. So thank you again, patrons, for your support and for your questions. If you are a patron, come join us on Discord. Amazing community, helpful community, monthly challenges with giveaways. If you are not a Patreon, come join us on Patreon. Amazing community again, and also lots of extra content, videos, patches, presets, sounds, patching ideas, patching techniques, all sorts of different things. And that's it. Thank you again. Cheers.